dough, pull it up over itself for 3 hours yesterday, and then I put it in the refrigerator overnight with a little bit of plastic on top so that it wouldn't get that hard crusty thing that sometimes happens if you don't cover it up. And look how pretty it is, how fluffy. So now we're ready to do our first shaping. We're just going to very gently push it out of our container. Look at that, nice. We're going to cut it in half because it really is 2 loaves worth of dough. It's gonna be a little tricky. You just have to have the courage of your convictions. There, okay, now one piece looks a little bit bigger than the other, but that's okay. You want to incorporate as little rice flour as possible. This is rice flour. You can pick it up pretty in most grocery stores. We're going to just sprinkle a very little bit on top. We'll do this one too, even though we're going to shape them one at a time. And you're going to flip it over so that the floured side is down. Now we're going to shape it to create tension. And you need one of these little blade things. You can get them online. You're going to go around and forward, around, forward. So you're just trying to get tension there. Around, forward, and 4 times should be enough. Around, forward. We're gonna let that sit. Let's do this one now. Guess I should have worn my apron. And you want a flat surface that's easy to work on. I just use my tile countertop. I had a wood thing, but it didn't work as well as the tile. Around, forward, around, forward. Okay, we're going to let it rest. We're going to put this little towel over it so that it doesn't dry out. Pop any bubbles you see. And we're going to let it sit, I believe it's for 20 minutes before we do the final shaping. And that's going to be the fun part. All right, see you soon.
All right, you guys, I have to show you the final shaping by using this thing that holds my phone. And my husband is working in the next room over. So sorry about the distractions and the voices in the background. But if I don't shape this now, it's probably not going to be good for the bread.
So I floured the surface I'm going to work on. These are the bowls I'm going to put the 2 loaves of bread in. Got a little cloth thing with some flour, rice flour in there. And my other little bowl that has the nice ridges. Pretty common for when you're doing your bread. And you just want to make sure the tension's pretty good. I've had this resting for about 30 minutes and it's in pretty good shape. It seems happy. Put a little flour on the top again, rice flour. Okay, so you're trying to get your loaf nice and, I mean, it's relaxed now, which is good. You kind of put it in a pulled out shape. Do one end over the other. Pull it upwards, like that. And now we're going to roll this end towards the pulled out end, getting all the bubbles out if we can. You push it, roll it, push it, roll it, push it, all the way towards the end, like that. And take my bench knife and put it seam-wise down. And we're gonna let it rest in the refrigerator. I'm gonna put a cloth over it so it doesn't get that hard coating. And again, I'm sorry about the background noise. It's just, Farm Wench wouldn't have
A farm without my husband working remotely from his office, so it just goes with the territory.
So, we're gonna take our second look. Make sure it's nice and happy and round. I'm going to, I think I'll tip it over that way. Elongate it. We don't want to manhandle it, but you do want to get out the air. Okay, so now we're going to take this end once again, pull it upwards and out. And once again, bubble, pop the bubbles. We're going to go forward, roll, forward push, roll, forward push, all the way towards the seam. Happy little loaf. Pick it up with a bench knife, bowl. Now this is by no means perfect, but it's relatively happy. And I don't feel like baking this right now, so I'm gonna put it in the fridge with my cloth over it. And then when it's time to bake, we'll film that, and hopefully my husband will be done working.
Bless his heart.
Okay, so we went ahead and put our bread in the fridge with a cloth over it because I wasn't ready to bake yesterday. And they're fine, they've even puffed up a little bit more, which is nice. In order to prepare for baking the bread, you want to set the oven to 450 degrees and let it heat up about a half hour before actually putting your pans in there. I've got a Dutch oven and a Creuset, which the only thing I've ever used it for is for bread. I guess I should use that more often. I put a little parchment paper down. You put the parchment paper down, tuck it in, and then sprinkle some cornmeal at the bottom before putting the bread in, because if you don't, what happens is you get a little of that parchment paper stuck on the bottom. So make it easier to lift out when it's done cooking. Pull out this guy, like so, and plop it in, plop. My daughter gave me one of these things. It's called a lame. I think that's how I pronounce it. I've always struggled with it because I don't know if I thread it properly, but it does usually do a good job in cutting the dough. And I just do like a nice little tic-tac-toe design. The next one, ooh, flour. It's important you make that noise. If you put it in, it helps the bread. Tell it to cook nicely and not give you any trouble. See, it's moving. So I have a sharp knife handy. Just finish the job with the knife. I always have trouble with that thing. I don't understand the lame. Guess you guys are gonna have to figure it out without me. Okay, so I've got the lids heated up separately on the top rack. You want those pots in there for a half hour at 450 to keep them nice and warm, get them ready for the bread. We're going to put these in the oven for about, I think 18 minutes, something like that. You're gonna keep the lid on, and after 18 minutes, check it, and if it's slightly brown on the top or even on its way, it's time to take the lid off and cook it for another 12-15 minutes. And I always have to eyeball it because you want the top of the crust to be nice and brown. So we'll give that a shot and check back in 18 minutos. This is after 18 minutes with the lid on. And I think those are looking pretty darn good. Isn't that pretty? So yeah, we don't want to let the heat out. We're gonna cook it for about 12 more minutes and keep checking on it, make sure we don't burn the bread, but like I said, we want a nice dark top. So we'll see how that goes. So I actually kept this bread in the oven with the lids off for about 20 minutes. I always take it out too soon, and you really want to have a nice brown top on there. This one could even have stayed in a little longer, but that's okay. You want to keep this cooling before you cut into it. Make sure it's room temperature. And if you want to slice it all at once, you can. What I will probably do is I'll slice this after it cools down using a really good bread knife, such as this. And then I'll put it in some kind of container and put it in the freezer so I have it for later. It should be perfectly fine. You can toast it if you want for sandwiches and stuff, or just let it thaw and use it regularly. This, I may cut a hole in it and put soup inside. You can also use a spinach dip inside, or you can just cut it at will and nosh on it with some dipping oil, some really good saucy, spicy olive oil, which is delicious. Anyway, it looks like we were successful, and I hope you have as much fun making this bread as I did.